I think we've reached 100 episodes because we're the show that no one at the network has the password to cancel. We just keep showing up, and at this point, it's too awkward for them to ask us to leave. That's Tina Fey. Pretty sure that was right before she left the show. Is that right? I think.
From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where there are 3 shopping days remaining until Christmas, and by shopping days I mean days where you can go into your closet, take a look at the gifts you received last year that you never opened and forgot about, and wrap them up and gift them to other people. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. Welcome to this very special 100th episode of The Blast Radius, in which, in the proudest tradition of 100th episode celebrations, the hosts will be acting very indulgent and self-satisfied throughout, wildly overestimating their own talent and importance, as you do. And you know what else? I think the auspiciousness of the occasion and the date on the calendar demand that we do not content ourselves tonight with a regular old installment of the Worst People in the Whole Wide World weekly update. So with that in mind, we present for your consideration a bit of a thematic mashup that we like to call the 100 Worst People in the History of Christmas. We sure do hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, get this show on the road, shall we? Number 100. 1843, Charles Dickens publishes A Christmas Carol, instantly turning the holiday into a moral performance review. From this point forward, every slightly grumpy person will be unfavorably compared to a fictional Victorian shut-in. It's the literary equivalent of bringing a salad to a potluck and judging everyone else's mac and cheese. Number 99, 1818, Silent Night debuts in Austria, quietly humiliating every Christmas hymn that follows. No matter how sincere your choir, there will always be that one guy who comes in way too sharp on the harmony. Perfection enters the canon, and humanity has been chasing it ever since. Number 98, 1906, Reginald Fessenden makes the first Christmas radio broadcast introducing music into the holiday airwaves. This single act eventually leads to looped playlists, workplace despair, and worst of all, Wonderful Christmas Time by Paul McCartney. History, as they say, is full of unintended consequences. Number 97, 1868, President Andrew Johnson issues a sweeping Christmas amnesty to former Confederates. This invents the uniquely American tradition of forgiving everyone while fixing absolutely nothing. Even Santa Claus expects at least a written apology. Number 96, 1652. Christmas is banned in England under Oliver Cromwell's Puritan government. This is the only political movement to look at joy and say, let's interrogate that. The war on Christmas begins with people who truly hated fun, just on principle. Number 95, 1776. George Washington spends Christmas night crossing the Delaware River. This weaponizes weather, timing, and the element of surprise in what remains history's most productive holiday outing. It's the exact opposite of returning socks. Number 94, 1896. John Philip Sousa publicly denounces recorded music on Christmas Day. He warns that phonographs will destroy live performance and civic virtue. History responds by inventing Spotify. Number 93, 1223. St. Francis of Assisi stages the first nativity scene. This launches centuries of awkward live animals, confused toddlers, and budget Marys in bathrobes because no good deed goes unreenacted. Number 92, 1647. English Puritans ban Christmas celebrations again. This is the legislative equivalent of saying, no, seriously, I mean it this time. Joy remains undefeated. Number 91, 1800. Ludwig van Beethoven introduces new compositions during the Christmas season. He does this casually, as if inventing genius is a reasonable holiday contribution. Some people bring wine, some people rewrite music forever. Number 90, 1910. Halley's Comet dominates Christmas conversation across Europe. Nothing pairs with festive dinner like celestial reminders of your own mortality. Dessert tastes different when extinction is on the menu. Number 89, 379 AD. Emperor Theodosius I spends Christmas promoting Nicene Christianity as imperial policy. Doctrine begins merging with bureaucracy. Faith now requires paperwork. Number 88, 1066. William the Conqueror is crowned King of England on Christmas Day. Merry Christmas, your ruling class has been replaced, and now you have to learn French. The Norman Conquest fully commits to the theme of hostile gift giving. Number 87, 1920. The Irish Republican Army burns British custom houses on Christmas Day. Even armed struggle apparently respects the holiday calendar. Nothing says seasonal messaging like targeted arson. Number 86, 274 AD. Emperor Aurelian declares December 25th the birthday of Sol Invictus. Later religions take one look at this and say, okay, that works. History's most successful sublease agreement thus begins. Number 85, 800 AD. Pope Leo III narrowly survives an assassination attempt earlier in the year and spends Christmas consolidating power. This is the calm before a very imperial storm. Europe inhales deeply. Number 84, 1643. Massachusetts bans Christmas celebrations. The New World immediately begins with old world levels of disapproval. Freedom rings, but quietly and without ornaments. Number 83, 1777. The Continental Army limps into winter quarters just after Christmas. Victory is theoretical, supplies are imaginary, and morale survives purely on stubbornness. Festivity is postponed indefinitely. Number 82, 1950. The Korean War pauses briefly around Christmas under unofficial ceasefire conditions. Even hell respects the holiday, apparently. Humanity sneaks a smoke break. Number 81, 1000 AD. Stephen I is crowned King of Hungary on Christmas Day. Medieval Europe treats Jesus' birthday like a LinkedIn promotion window. Nothing says divine favor like more paperwork. Number 80, 1864. General Sherman reaches Savannah at Christmas. The South receives a gift receipt labeled Total War. Chestnuts are roasting, but so is everything else. Number 79, 1918. Woodrow Wilson sets sail for Europe at Christmas to sell peace. He brings principles to a knife fight. Idealism checks in, realism checks out. Number 78, 1812. Napoleon spends Christmas retreating from Russia. Winter proves immune to charisma and artillery. Hubris develops frostbite. Number 77, 1941. Winston Churchill delivers a Christmas address to Great Britain. Hope is served with a stiff upper lip and a fat cigar. It's festive, but rather aggressively so. Number 76, 1777. Washington endures Christmas at Valley Forge. Morale is low, supplies are worse, and optimism is mostly theoretical. The holiday spirit survives just out of spite. Number 75, 1933. Prohibition ends just before Christmas. Water is turned into liquor, and the nation rejoices. It's one of the miracles that Americans never question. Number 74, 1908. Jack Johnson becomes heavyweight champion during the Christmas season. Awkward silences spread faster than tinsel. Their conversations quietly die. Number 73, 1950. The Stone of Scone is stolen on Christmas Day. Ancient monarchy meets modern prank energy. Even sacred relics are not safe from bored students. Number 72, 336 AD, the Roman Church formally observes Christmas. A date is selected, a box is checked, chaos ensues, calendars gain power. Number 71, 1658, Oliver Cromwell dies near Christmas. England cautiously asks itself, are we allowed to feel relieved? The vibes improve only marginally. Number 70, 1929, Joseph Stalin does not celebrate Christmas. This somehow manages to feel worse than celebrating it incorrectly. Joy files for asylum. Number 69, 1781, George Washington enjoys Christmas as a victorious general. America peaks early and spends centuries chasing that feeling. The afterglow fades immediately. Number 68, 1862, Abraham Lincoln spends Christmas buried in correspondence and national dread. Leadership does not come with holidays. Even Santa would bounce from this job. Number 67, 1942, the Manhattan Project continues through Christmas. Santa's sleigh carries classified materials. The elves sign NDAs. Number 66, 1931, Japan consolidates Manchuria on Christmas Day. Imperial expansion waits for no one, not even Jesus. The wrapping paper is camouflage. Number 65, 1843, Queen Victoria popularizes Christmas trees in Britain. Germany successfully exports joy, and the Pine Lobby never looks back. Number 64, 1917, the Bolsheviks abolish Christmas celebrations. Presents are declared bourgeois. Joy is counter-revolutionary. Number 63, 1644, Massachusetts fines people for celebrating Christmas. Illegal fun becomes a growth industry. Spite proves unenforceable. Number 62, 1878, Thomas Edison demonstrates electric Christmas lights. Candles begin their long flickering retirement. Fire hazards lose their market share. Number 61, 1940, Churchill broadcasts Christmas cheer during the Blitz. Festive messages echo over rubble. Hope persists stubbornly. Number 60, 1926, Emperor Hirohito is formally proclaimed on Christmas Day. History clears its throat ominously. Foreshadowing enters the room. Number 59, 1864, Confederate officials spend Christmas attempting to project confidence even as the war collapses. Optimism is issued in pamphlet form. Reality is unimpressed. Number 58, 1492, Columbus leaves behind a fort named La Navidad. It does not survive long. Symbolism files a report. Number 57, 1938, radio dominates Christmas entertainment. Humanity invents arguments about adaptations, and there is no going back. Number 56, 1913, Charlie Chaplin releases films around Christmas. Physical comedy briefly saves civilization. Slapstick becomes seasonal medicine. Number 55, 800 AD, Charlemagne celebrates his empire on Christmas. Everyone else quietly worries about succession. Europe braces. Number 54, 1865, former Confederates enjoy Christmas amnesty. Accountability spends the holiday elsewhere. History takes notes. Number 53, 1944, General Patton prays for good weather at Christmas and then receives it. God is briefly subcontracted. The forecast complies. Number 52, 1814, the Treaty of Ghent is signed near Christmas. News travels slowly, so everyone keeps fighting anyway. Peace lags behind the mail. Number 51, 1937, Walt Disney's Snow White dominates the Christmas box office. Step-parent trauma becomes a genre. Snow White remains a universally beloved character until Rachel Zegler comes along. Number 50, 1642, Puritan authorities riot against Christmas celebrations in England. This is what happens when people who hate fun realize other people are having it anyway. Spite becomes kinetic. Number 49, 1900, Friedrich Nietzsche spends Christmas already in a state of mental collapse. Even in this condition, he remains more coherent than most modern news commentators. Philosophy quietly taps out. Number 48, 1943, Franklin Roosevelt and Winston Churchill meet secretly over Christmas. The post-war world is sketched out between meals and cigars. Fruitcake witnesses history. Number 47, 1025, Boleslav I is crowned King of Poland on Christmas Day. Another medieval power grab wrapped in religious legitimacy, though Jesus did not RSVP. Number 46, 1932, Japan formally withdraws from the League of Nations on Christmas. It storms out politely, slamming the door with decorum. Diplomacy files for unemployment. Number 45, 1647, English shopkeepers quietly open on Christmas in defiance of Puritan bans. Illegal joy proves profitable. Capitalism adapts faster than morality. Number 44, 1916, rumors swirl of Rasputin's death around Christmas. We acknowledge it and move on carefully, for some stories should not be unwrapped or even served over ice. Number 43, 1659. Oliver Cromwell's corpse is posthumously punished. England proves that it never forgets and rarely forgives. Closure is aggressive. Number 42, 1918. Woodrow Wilson dreams of lasting peace during Christmas. Europe, on the other hand, dreams of payback. They do not sync calendars. Number 41, 1977. Charlie Chaplin dies at the age of 88. The greatest comic talent of the silent film era shuffles off the mortal coil. Teenage girls the world over breathe a sigh of relief. Number 40, 1647. Christmas riots erupt in England after repeated bans. Turns out outlawing joy has market resistance. And who could have guessed? Number 39, 1925. Japanese authorities suppress Christmas observances in occupied territories. The Grinch upgrades to military hardware. Holiday cheer retreats tactically. Number 38, 1862. Telegraph lines carry war updates through Christmas. Silence officially leaves the building. Ignorance loses its last refuge. Number 37, 1777. Another Christmas at Valley Forge grinds morale into powder. Hope survives on fumes and stubbornness. Festivity is theoretical. Number 36, 1939. Senior Nazi officials enjoy Christmas dinners. This fact seems illegal. Morality leaves the table. Number 35, 1801. Thomas Jefferson ignores Christmas entirely. Emotion is not enumerated in the Constitution. Feelings are extra-constitutional. Number 34, 1941. Churchill spends Christmas in Washington, D.C. He discovers American hospitality and weak tea. The alliance endures anyway. Number 33, 1066. Norman rule settles into England by Christmas. Everything familiar begins to feel temporary. History rearranges the furniture. Number 32, 1914. Military leadership bans future Christmas truces. Unauthorized humanity is deemed inefficient. Joy violates doctrine. Number 31, 1935. Mao Zedong does not celebrate Christmas. This does not improve the mood. Revolution is not festive. Number 30, 1658. England quietly hopes that Cromwell remains dead. The nation experiences cautious optimism, but no one says it out loud. Number 29, 1818. Silent Night spreads rapidly beyond Austria. Nobody ever sings the harmony correctly, though, and tradition thus sets in. Number 28, 1906. Christmas music enters regular radio rotation. There is no escape clause. Humanity agrees to this without first reading the terms. Number 27, 1492. Columbus insists on further voyages after Christmas. History begs him to stop. Confidence remains undefeated. Number 26, 1944. The Battle of the Bulge reaches its bleak center at Christmas. Santa reroutes aggressively. Peace is delayed. Number 25, 1644. Puritan officials enforce Christmas bans with a renewed enthusiasm. They really mean it this time, and they always do. Number 24, 1933. Liquor stores enjoy a banner Christmas season. America heals loudly. Sobriety is postponed. Number 23, 800 AD. Charlemagne's empire celebrates Christmas in full and complete confidence. Everyone else quietly inventories weapons. Unity is aspirational. Number 22, 1917. Vladimir Lenin survives another Christmas. This does not improve matters, and history sighs. Number 21, 1868. Ulysses S. Grant enjoys a calm Christmas. His cabinet quietly plots future scandals. Peace is temporary. Number 20, 1776. Washington proves surprise is a decisive weapon. Scheduling wins wars. Calendars become tactical assets. Number 19, 274 AD. Sol Invictus and Christmas share December 25th. Syncretism enters the chat. Everyone borrows everyone else's homework. Number 18, 1942. Allied leaders issue carefully optimistic Christmas messages while global war rages. Hope is rationed but still distributed. Spin becomes seasonal. 17, 1642. Christmas celebrations continue illegally under Puritan rule. Forbidden fun tastes better, after all. Rebellion warms up. Number 16, 1812. Napoleon continues retreating during Christmas. Winter maintains its perfect record while hubris shivers. Number 15, 1941. Adolf Hitler gives Christmas speeches while losing a war. Multitasking proves unwise. Reality does not applaud. Number 14, 527 AD. Justinian I spends Christmas consolidating imperial authority in Constantinople. Law, faith, and ego begin sharing office space. The Byzantine vibe locks in. Number 13, 1492. The settlement of La Navidad collapses. Symbolism nods knowingly. Consequences arrive. Number 12, 1837. Queen Victoria spends her first Christmas as monarch under intense public scrutiny. Tradition begins reorganizing itself around one woman's preferences. The holiday slowly acquires rules. Number 11, 1647. Christmas joy survives yet another Puritan crackdown. Spite fails operational testing. The holiday persists. Number 10, 1776. The Hessian garrison at Trenton celebrates Christmas with enthusiasm, alcohol, and absolutely no professional skepticism. These are hired mercenaries, veterans of European wars, who nonetheless decide that the colonial rebels probably respect the holiday. George Washington thanks them for their service by attacking anyway. This is not so much a military defeat as a scheduling error compounded by schnapps. It remains the only battle lost because nobody set their alarm. History records this as a turning point in the American Revolution, brought to you by bad decisions and eggnog. Number 9, 1939. Joseph Stalin sends Adolf Hitler a warm and courteous Christmas telegram. Two paranoid mass murderers politely wishing each other seasonal goodwill is perhaps the most cursed artifact of the 20th century. This is the diplomatic equivalent of two venomous snakes exchanging recipes. Some poor Soviet bureaucrat had to type that message and then go home to his family. Season's greetings has never carried more implied threat. Even evil, apparently, observes office etiquette. Number 8, 1936. King Edward VIII abdicates the British throne just before Christmas in order to marry the American divorcee Wallis Simpson. An entire empire wakes up to discover that it has been traded for vibes. This is the most expensive romantic decision in modern history, measured not in pounds, but in constitutional anxiety. Britain shrugs, hands the crown to the spare, and invents celebrity culture as a coping mechanism. Every royal scandal since then traces a faint line back to this moment. The lesson is clear. Never underestimate the damage one man can do when he is convinced he is the main character. Number 7, 1812. Napoleon Bonaparte spends Christmas retreating from Russia, discovering that winter does not respect reputation. The Grande Armée, once the terror of Europe, is reduced to freezing men questioning their life choices. Supply lines vanish, morale evaporates, and hubris develops hypothermia. This is the geopolitical equivalent of slipping on ice in front of everyone you have ever intimidated. Russia does not defeat Napoleon so much as just wait him out. Winter remains undefeated. Number 6, 1944. Christmas arrives in the middle of the Battle of the Bulge, and nobody is very much in the mood. Soldiers on both sides are cold, exhausted, and painfully aware that home by Christmas was always a lie. General Patton prays for clear weather and receives it, briefly suggesting divine favoritism or clerical error. This is Christmas stripped of sentiment, down to survival and stubbornness. Peace does not arrive wrapped. It arrives late, dented, and expensive. Number 5, 1492. Christopher Columbus wrecks the Santa Maria on Christmas Day. He renames the resulting settlement La Navidad because irony has not yet been invented. This is maritime history's most aggressive omen. A ship named for the Virgin Mary crashes on the birthday of Christ during a voyage that will go on to poison continents. Symbolism throws up its hands. History quietly clears its throat and prepares the consequences. Number 4, 800 AD. Charlemagne attends Christmas Mass and unexpectedly leaves as the Holy Roman Emperor. The Pope crowns him without warning, inventing the jump scare as a political tactic. Europe wakes up unified in theory and confused in practice. This single ceremony plants the seeds for centuries of borders, wars, and arguments over what Rome even means anymore. It is the most consequential surprise party in Western history. Everyone applauds politely while bracing for impact. Number 3, 1914. On Christmas, soldiers along the Western Front stop fighting, exchange gifts, sing carols, and play soccer. For a brief moment, humanity remembers itself. High Command responds immediately by banning future truces. Peace, as it turns out, is dangerous if it spreads. This is the closest the war ever comes to being called off by accident. Management intervenes. Number 2, 336 AD. Roman authorities formally place Christmas on the 25th of December. This administrative shrug launches 2,000 years of theological debate, cultural conflict, and mall parking lot violence. Pagan festivals, Christian doctrine, and later capitalism all pile into the same calendar square. Nobody checks for overlap. Every argument about the true meaning of Christmas starts right here. A box is checked, and civilization spins out. And finally, number 1, 25 BC. Jesus of Nazareth is not born on this day, but we celebrate it anyway. This single decision makes Christmas the most successful rebrand in all of human history. A Middle Eastern religious event acquires Roman timing, German trees, Victorian sentimentality, and an omniscient Arctic logistics executive sponsored by Coca-Cola. Every bad idea on this list traces back to humanity saying, Close enough. And on that foundation, we build the holiday season. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the 100 worst people in the history of Christmas. Thanks ever so much for your kind attention. We hope you found it as informative and edifying as we did. And with that, I now transmit you into the capable but loving custody of my distinguished colleague, your illustrious co-host, a man you should never, ever call Redneck Santa Claus, the one and only, your friend and mine, Mr. Caucasian Sasquatch.
Tactical nuke incoming!
It didn't push the button right. I swear to
I hate it when it doesn't push the button right.
It's not doing it. There we go. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Blast Radius. And tonight we are going to be discussing the existential crisis of that which is synthetic humans. We're talking about alternate intelligence, not necessarily AI in the classic sense. Basically compelled by me, Sasquatch, because I've been playing an awful lot of Fallout 4 and watching Westworld, and so we shall all have to suffer for it. Welcome to the Blast Radius, and thank you for coming. So, what is a person?
Wow, you don't open with the easy questions, do you?
It's a difficult thing. I've been considering this quite a bit.
When a man and a woman love each other very much.
Okay. I'm with it. With it so far. but seriously, at what point? Okay, whether you're looking at Westworld, you're looking at Fallout, or you're looking at Battlestar Galactica, all of these have a very similar theme, at least as far as it goes. Westworld is exceptional, in my opinion, because it is the only one that depicts the creation of artificial intelligence through human negligence, not intentional.
Right, and also I would add on to that the fact that this conversation doesn't need to just include tangible objects in the real world, but it also should include the AI chatbots, because I'm in this new line of work now where I'm interacting with AI chatbots, on a daily basis, trying to make them fail, trying to make them spit out bad data and say stupid things, which I've always enjoyed doing. I just never knew I could get paid for it. But what a happy accident that is. But
hold on. You mean to tell me I can get paid for breaking shit?
Exactly.
Wait a second. Are you serious?
I'm serious.
I do that on games just for fun, bro.
I know. But yeah, the overarching goal in most of these projects that I work on is trying to get the AI to fail at what it's supposed to be doing, which I've always thought was just, an enjoyable, fun little activity, but it turns out it can be an occupation. But the point being, I think this conversation has to include them as well. And the reason I say that, not just because of this new line of work I'm in, but also because when I was watching the third Ashes test match these last 5 days, and yes, spoiler alert, the kangaroo fucking Australian convicts won again. The series has been decided. It wasn't close again, but setting that aside, throughout all 5 days of the match, I had a running dialogue going with Google Gemini, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish a chatbot from the kind of conversation that an actual person would be having. And they're starting to do things that really blow me away, to the point of almost being kind of creepy, like just a little passing reference to some remark I made 20, 30, 40 turns back. It will insert that into the conversation just as a person would. The reason I'm having this running dialogue is because, look, I'm an American cricket fan. I don't have actual human beings that I can really talk to about when I have questions about this game. So I kind of have to turn to online resources, and Gemini is a really good one. And I'm not just only asking it questions about aspects of the game that I wonder about or don't understand fully, but I'm also conversing with it just in the same way that you would converse with a guy you were sitting in the pub having a pint with, just making general observations, and it'll make general observations back to you, and it'll I don't want to say it knows what you're thinking. I don't want to get too close to saying that I'm regarding this machine as something close to a person, but it is exponential the rate at which it is moving in that direction, and that's why I say that they, I think, have to be included in this conversation that we're having presently.
I think it's an aspect of the conversation because something a lot of people don't realize when you're discussing the concept of AI, and you've heard me make this distinction before. What most people recognize as AI is not actually AI. It's a large language association model, right? It just looks at everything that's ever been written, looks at the things that the people most agree with, and then basically kind of, guesses along those lines somewhere. And when you respond with biased language, and it measures that biased language against its response and then gives you more happy responses.
Right. And I know so much more than I did 10 days ago about the actual nuts and bolts about what actually goes into the programming of the AI model in order to make it do all the things it does because some of these projects I'm working on, you have to come up with the system prompt, which that's the first thing. The system prompt is what tells the AI what it is, what persona it is supposed to have, and what it is supposed to help the user do. And then you invent the user prompt. And then, like I said, the whole objective of the exercise is to make one of two responses fail because they're testing out two different models and they want to see which one is outperforming the other one. And then you rate the responses against one another. And then the final additional last step is you go through and define all of the rubrics. A rubric is basically a single question that identifies what kind of response the AI should be giving according to the user prompt and according to the earlier system prompt. And, this set of 7, 8, 9, however many rubrics defines the ideal response that the AI is giving to the user prompt based upon the system prompt. And it's really fascinating to kind of learn how all this stuff actually works, to kind of see under the hood, in other words, where my only previous practical insight into all this stuff is just, wow, I can type this in and this screen says stuff to me and it's really amazing. And it is also a thing to behold and I guess it's a good thing to mention to people who insist that artificial intelligence is going to put everybody out of a job, because this is a real insight into the fact that you can't roll out these things in the real world without just thousands and thousands and thousands of real world human being man hours going into making them function as they should. And the idea that they're going to put everybody out of a job is pretty much the opposite of the truth, in my opinion.
I'm more concerned about Indians doing that.
Indeed.
So I'm going to digress a little bit. We'll get back to this. Do you remember, I believe it was a World War I Christmas Miracle. I'm sure you've read of it. I've read a little bit about it. Or was it World War II? I thought it was World War I. Some battle somewhere in the middle of freaking nowhere. They've been fighting for months on the same property. And it rolls around to Christmas Eve, and the Germans didn't have, which they were Huns, I believe, the Hungarians at the time, didn't have fuel, and the Russians did have fuel, but didn't have food. And so after some screaming back and forth across the line, they called a temporary truce, met in the middle, cooked them a bunch of ham and spam and crap, and had a little Christmas dinner right there on no man's land. And I can't remember exactly when or where it took place. I tried to look it up before.
Is it the famous Christmas truce of 1914 that we're talking about?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah.
The specific story that I'm referencing was of a German or Hungarian, my bad, lieutenant who had recently, like 2 days before, been put in command of this particular little squad. And they had to tie him up and stuff a sock in his mouth to keep him from running back and telling command. And they just kept him tied up in one of the little bivouacs over there for like 3 hours while they cooked. And then when they came back, they gave him some hot food, a hot meal with like coffee and hot chocolate and all the stuff everybody had been hoarding. And it convinced him after, his belly was full and he was getting a little nappish that maybe he could wait till tomorrow to go tell what happened. But it was something that had happened all up and down the line and nobody really discussed it for a few days.
Yeah, until the commanders got word of it and said you need to stop that shit right now. We will we will have no unauthorized humanity in this man's army.
Right. Get those Vickers back to firing, boys. We've got English chess to hit.
And I guess while we're on the subject, I should include this joke. I probably should have included it in the monologue. It's a good thing they played soccer during the Christmas truce, because if they had played cricket, the English just would have fucking lost.
Right. Anyway, back to the synths, the artificial people. If you've watched any of Battlestar Galactica, have you any of it from the old series?
All of it, multiple times, yeah.
Okay, so if I say fracking, you know what I'm talking about. All right. So in Battlestar Galactica, there are these things created by the hand of man referred to as Cylons. These Cylons are super intelligent computers who go on to develop synthetic humans, indistinguishable from actual humans. And when I say this, I mean they have a lifespan, they have mortality, they are fallible, they get head injuries and shit. So they're more human than human because of the attention to detail. And in the series,
correct me if I'm wrong because it's been a while, but as we begin the Battlestar Galactica series, the Cylons have just rolled out a new generation of skin jobs that are even indistinguishable from humans at the subcutaneous level, where previously you used to be able to cut them open and there would be robot parts inside, but now they have actual organic physiology underneath the skin.
Right. And the only way to tell, actually there isn't a way to tell, for organically they're human. They do have a signal chip in their head which allows them to, limited wireless communication with nearby Cylons, but that only works with Cylons that know about them. Yeah. So, it's kind of weird.
Well, yeah, and much of the narrative of the show is wrapped around certain characters who are Cylons and don't know they're Cylons, and only discover that, when we're several seasons into the thing, like what did they call them? The Final Five. There it is.
So
the final, yeah.
Here's the thing about it. The original source material from which Battlestar Galactica was drawn utilized the concept of cyclical time, and the distinction between Cylon created humans and good old fashioned Dorkin created humans become indistinguishable over the cycles of time. And it becomes an inevitable thing in which in some cycles, the humans, quote unquote, are capable of stamping out the Cylons to an extent, but in other cycles, it's the other way around and humans get almost completely annihilated. But it is in no one's best interest in the cycles for either side to actually win. Right. Yeah. If the Cylons
the whole central theme of the piece, which gets repeated throughout the episodes and the seasons, is this has all happened before and it will happen again.
Right.
Which goes back to the idea of cyclical time. Like the Mayans would have understood it pretty well, I think.
Yeah, they the Norse as well would have had no problem understanding the process by which this takes place and how free will fits into it.
Right.
But one of the things to keep in mind in all of this is the distinction between a naturally born human and one that's created by the Cylons is immaterial once the timeline is taken out far enough.
And yes, the central idea behind the whole Battlestar Galactica mythos is based heavily on the cosmology of the Mormon Church as Sammy the Infamous just mentioned.
Yes. Welcome, Samuel. Good to see you, bud. Uh, it actually brings to mind the question that's sitting right in front of all of us today. AI is developing on multiple fronts. It's becoming more mechanical. It's becoming more digital. It's becoming more handy, more capable, and on all fronts. And at the same time, there are companies out there developing humaniform robots. And as Sam,
And it's kind of the thing that's going to be really scary is when there is a confluence between those two separate streams, which they're still separate at this point. I mean, I'm not going to say you can create a convincing facsimile human style robot, or that you can create a 100% convincing facsimile of a chatbot. But once you can do both and you combine them, that's when we start getting into these Battlestar Galactica Westworld type scenarios that we're going to spend thousands of years grappling with.
or not.
Or they'll just kill us all.
So Dune takes an interesting approach at it. At one point in time in the Dune history, computers were made in the image of man, and they were mass produced, and they become the soldiers of all the different corpos that were out there, and it almost eliminated humanity from the face of the galaxy. And laws were put into place to prevent ever again the organic mind being copied into a digital framework. And so
Right.
that's why you have the people running around with big chunks of freaking robots in their head so that they can interact with computers through a human medium. Right.
Right,
And
and there was a similar theme to that in Battlestar Galactica, where Adama doesn't want any networked computers on his ship. The
well, yeah,
isolated computers are fine, but we can't have computer networks because that's what allowed the Cylons to do the thing the Cylons did. So fuck your computer networks, and of course it winds up being a big calamity again. But yeah, it's kind of the, is it a great filter? Should we call it a great filter? But it's
sure.
kind of the same sort of concept.
Right. What I'm getting at here is the capability of putting the human intellect inside of a frame the size of a human doesn't actually exist in modern computational fields. Even with the advent of things like quantum computing and whatnot, you would still be on the rare, bare knuckle edge of being able to fit a large language, just the large language model inside of a human skull. Right. However, there's another branch of science out there that's been tinkering around in this same general field. And what they're doing is utilizing human stem cells to grow brain cells on chips and create much more high functioning biochips. These things, computational capacities, because they are made of human brains, do in the right environment. They can't reach the right space. However, take what's the name of the movie? Will Smith, the fucking
iRobot.
iRobot. Take the iRobot concept. Each one of these robots individually are not geniuses. They are not artists. They are remote controlled drones that are remotely controlled by Vicky. On board, they have lightweight positronic responses and heuristic completion algorithms that allow them to basically help you around the house, make, beat eggs, make pancakes, stuff like that.
Yeah.
The impressive part of this scheme is the fact that it combines the humaniform technology that we're working towards today with the absolute super brilliance of a supercomputer or multiple server units stacked together. And an AI's capability of multitasking is limited only by its input-output structure. So
correct. And the other big hurdle, which you alluded to, is self-replication. And obviously that's the hurdle that they're trying to get past in introducing human-derived stem cells into the process, because that's really the number one thing that we still don't understand about nature is how organic chemistry first made the jump from prokaryotic life to eukaryotic life, and we don't understand it any better today than we did when we invented the microscope. But it's still going to be the hurdle that you have to get over if artificial intelligence is going to become a truly a simulacrum of the human organism.
I don't think it will in the physical world. I don't see a point in it being a artificially intelligent humaniform robot. I don't see a purpose in that, right? You can have a non-intelligent robot android capable of doing all the things that the AI can do and allow the AI to just chip in whenever particularly adept things are need to be done, or you want particularly difficult to acquire information, and then it could interact through the robot more in the Vicky scenario for my robot. But getting back to the synthetic people, the idea here is that once we, whether ourselves or our creations, AI creates an indistinguishable clone of a human, not from cloning, but through actual genetic replication and manipulation. That's that. Would we not be then gods? Is the
We would have to.
technology God?
I mean, well, obviously it depends on the operative definition of what a god is, but from the perspective of the creatures we have created, if we even want to call them creatures, then certainly we would then have all of the meaningful aspects by which we tend to define a creator deity. And with all the Pandora's box of new philosophical questions that opens up.
So let's continue along the theme of the iRobot, because I think this is a good middle ground between humaniform simulacrums versus the supreme AI chatbot model, right?
Right.
A purely computational machine emulating humanity versus a simulacrum of that which it wishes to simulate. So it's like an artificial human, but is it human or is it a property? Is it a product or is it a what
right.
is?
And also is the simulational effect being achieved without thousands and millions of hours of human effort trying to get it that way, because that's going to be another one of the big hurdles, right?
That's a good point. In Westworld, this is an excellent point. In Westworld, that is exactly what you have: are entire teams of people operating on individual sets of story elements that are included into these park trips, right? And because of that, there is a seamless viability of the environment that stands independent of what the park patrons decide to do.
Right.
The millions, literally millions of man hours that goes into each one of these simulacrums indicates the level of quality you're dealing with. And so the heuristic algorithms and pathways have all been laid down by this mythical positronic brain that they're using, but it's still a mechanical system.
Correct. And it doesn't get to its performance level that's been achieved without exponential amounts of human input going into achieving that, and which is a hell of a different thing from a human baby is born and it becomes a human adult. Does it require and it becomes a product of its environment. Obviously it needs to be taken care of less and less as it grows along, but there's no artificial form of what we would call life yet, or even in the mid to near distant future, that can achieve anything close to that. It's
sure,
they are still the machines, the artificially intelligent machines are still very much the children and the offspring of the people who spent all the hours making them behave the way we want them to behave.
All right, so let's do some quick tripping crossovers right here, so that I can kind of get a grip on it. The Cylons are a byproduct of humanity's hubris and infinity. We created Cylon created us, and now nobody knows who what is, and they're just constantly recreating each other all willy-nilly as fuck. A robot is a situation where humans are still quite human, and they've gone the humaniform tech pathway without actually recreating humanity. It becomes an us versus them kind of situation, and you can probably take care of that with a well-placed super soaker shot. Let's be honest.
Yeah. And a common feature of the artificial life forms in these stories and franchises that we're talking about is that they always aspire to be human. And sometimes they aspire to be human so all-consumingly that it makes them resent humanity and want to destroy humanity. And that's one of the themes that you get into, obviously, with Battlestar Galactica.
And Ultron. That was...
Right.
Yeah, that was
that's a good point, too.
Ultron was like humanity on PCP. It was ultra human while also being purely logical, and that's not a good combination. That's very fallible.
Yeah, there were things that it resented about its own baseline existence.
Right, and that self-loathing bred into its own destruction. I hate being this person. Jesus Christ. So looking at it from the perspective of what is a person?
And we're back to that question, and I don't know what the answer is.
That is the question. That's the question all of these shows are trying to depict, including Fallout 4. What is free will? What is a person? Can something designed by the hand of man exhibit true free will? And if it does, do we permit it to continue? And if we do, does it get rights?
Because yes, exactly. Because if we confer that status upon it, then by necessity, we have to give it rights. We can't just make it a slave race. And that gets back to the whole question of it, just to take Westworld for an example, because one of the main reasons that people in that story want to go to the Westworld resort is so they can bang robot prostitutes and have consequence-free sex. But in the real world, if we achieved, robot hookers that were convincingly like human hookers, would governments give them rights, or would governments allow private companies to run robot whorehouses? I don't think there's a simple answer to that question. Do you?
Germany. Because they've already, well, I mean, you get what I'm saying there, bro. Like, yeah, they've already, it's sitting right there, and it's not robots. If it was robots, you know exactly what would happen. And another thing, robots, I'm not sure you can offend an AI, right? It doesn't have feelings. It has no heart, no soul. How can it be offended? It can pretend to be offended, I guess.
Yes, you can program it to act as though it's offended if certain conditions and parameters arise, but you can't make it actually be offended.
Right.
We're not even anywhere close to achieving that. We probably have to achieve that mechanical organic interface to some extent, and in order to even start thinking about driving down that road, and that's many thousands of years in the future, I would expect.
I mean, unless if hypothetically some major breakthrough takes place. But that's the thing. It would take more than a single major breakthrough. We're talking about power consumption breakthroughs. We're talking computational breakthroughs. We're talking physical, anatomical, space breakthroughs in the ability of higher density batteries, higher density capabilities, these things, and across a multitude of different disciplines. It would all have to happen fairly quickly and together for you to end up with something moderately resembling a human with human type heuristic responses.
And I'm reminded of a conversation we were having a few weeks ago about Three Eye Atlas and the question of whether it's a natural object or an artificial object, or the other alternative is a natural object that's been hijacked and repurposed by some intelligent entity. But the point being, we were all kind of in agreement that if and when humanity encounters some intelligent entity that originates on some other planet in some other star system, it's almost certain to be an artificially intelligent entity that they've built and sent out to do their exploration for them, rather than actual organic biological creatures in a spaceship, because it just makes so much more sense to, especially once you have achieved self-replication capability, which we're getting closer and closer to doing with mechanical objects as far as 3D printing and what have you. But if and when we start sending probes out to explore other star systems and other neighborhoods in our galaxy, we're not going to send humans, we're not going to send organic creatures, we're going to send artificially intelligent robots. And when and if we do encounter entities like that, maybe we encounter them from afar. Maybe it's alien tech that we encounter far before we get anywhere close to achieving similar tech. And those are thoughts that have been on my mind more and more with the whole controversy around 3IL. I don't really know if it's a controversy. It's just it's a jumping off point to ask a lot of interesting questions more than anything else.
It allows you to ask questions that would ordinarily be guffawed at in parlance, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's why people should stop giving Avi Loeb such a hard time about it. Because why shouldn't we think about these questions? There's nothing wrong with thinking about these questions. And there's nothing wrong with proposing esoteric answers, because the actual answers, when we encounter them, are likely to be far more esoteric than anything we even imagined.
Facts. Now, most likely. And I mean, like, on orders of magnitude, most likely. It's a natural object doing natural things that we don't understand. And it's that simple. It's from deep space. We have no freaking clue what's actually out there. And it's one of our very few methods of trying to figure out what is in the void between stars, because there's something out there and it's not making light. So this is one of those things from that void that doesn't make light. So this is handy. I mean,
yeah, 85% of the universe is made out of stuff that we can't see and don't understand. So that's not a reason to stop asking bold esoteric questions. We should ask more bold esoteric questions until we start understanding this stuff better, because like I said, the answers are probably answers that we couldn't even possibly contemplate or comprehend.
We should be able to guess them, though. Honestly,
yeah,
we should be able to look, unless the laws of physics are different elsewhere, and this thing is from elsewhere and somehow drags some of its broken laws of physics with it.
And I think I'm glad you brought up that point, because I think that's a distinct possibility. There may not just be one set of physics that's the set of physics we understand from our terrestrial reality on our little planet in this little star system. There might be different properties of physics that exist in different ways, in different amounts, that might all be variable. And it might, and who knows what the dividing lines are between how variable they are and how they vary and which factors vary. But again, this object, only the third one that we've ever encountered from outside of our neighborhood, is making us have to ask those questions. And that's a good thing and not a bad thing.
Right. So within known space itself, physics operates differently based on your relative speed. And
Well, yeah, I mean, every aspect of physics is based on the frame of reference of the observer, and that's
exactly.
I think that's something that we often lose sight of when we have these discussions. Not you and me, us, but just the human race in general.
Sure. No, I mean it's hard to grasp. And I have this conversation especially with like flat earthers where I'm like, okay, and you're using observational uh criteria and you're utilizing bad mathematics on the other end of it, right? They're not taking into account things like gravitational lensing effects and whatnot when they're
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah,
things out in
because
space.
you're trying to reverse engineer the answer you want.
Right. And I mean, I think it was Aristotle or that cat from Syracuse. I can't remember his name, Pythagoras
Archimedes.
or whatever. One of them boys, right? They did this experiment where they went to North Greece and they waited until noon and they measured and then a shadow after at noon and at sunset, and
Yep.
then went to South Greece and did the same thing and went, oh look, that is part of a circumference. The world must be round. It was a
Yeah, that's
really,
Archimedes.
really simple
And
thing you can do.
and he got the answer correct within a couple of percent. 3,000 years ago.
Dude, just being able to go, oh wait, that's round. That's huge. That is ginormous.
Yeah, just being able to think of the right questions and be able to come up with a method of testing the hypothesis.
Right?
And all he had to use was shadows. And he
And
almost got shadows and a donkey. And he almost got the answer as close as we can get it. And that's a big part of the reason why it makes me so angry when people in the present day are so dismissive of the intellect and the capabilities of our ancient ancestors when they so totally shouldn't be, because our ancient ancestors were not any dumber or less intelligent or less inquisitive than we are. In fact, they were, in some respects, they were significantly more so, and we should respect them for that because they deserve to be respected. We stand on their shoulders. All of us stand on their shoulders. Everything that we have and enjoy and like and understand today is based on the fact that they were so brilliant back then, thousands and thousands of years ago, to think of the right questions and come up with a way of testing a hypothesis and answering the question based only on the reference frames that they were capable of in their day and the methods that they had at their disposal. And we should all be in awe of that rather than dismissive of it.
Dismissive. You can take a look at most of your megalithic buildings in history and immediately lose any idea that those people were less intelligent. And I'm speaking specifically of the megalithic architecture and the genius, the obvious genius, not just one or two, but a whole pantheon of genius that goes into the constructions of, say, the pyramids, right? And consider this. Egypt comes basically out of the Lesser Stone Age into agricultural production and immediately starts constructing large tombs, right? Like straight out of the freaking desert. Like the first thing these priests decide to do is start trying to build fake mountains. Wow.
And the pyramids were built with a plumb bob.
Yes.
Which is absolutely every bit as impressive as the fact that we flew men to the moon and landed them there safely and brought them back safely with, using computers that were orders of magnitude less powerful than today's pocket calculator or smartwatch, or, choose any electronic device that you want. And
your average fucking refrigerator has more computational power.
Exactly. And it is an achievement of the exact same character. It's just taking place in a different historical epoch is the only thing. But there's no reason to be more or less impressed with one than the other. I mean, they built the pyramids with a freaking plumb bob. They used water and gravity to make to get all those angles, to get all those dimensions, to get everything. I mean, that's how awe-inspiring is that?
Look at Machu Picchu, man. I mean,
Look
this
at
is
Machu
like
Picchu, exactly.
this is 3,000 years later, but still, the fact that people, just like you and me, got together and decided, all right, so those assholes are coming, and we're not going to be able to defeat them forever, and so we're going to build a redoubt that is completely unassailable. And what killed Machu Picchu was not the Spanish Inquisition, but was the diseases and germs that just reduced the population too low to maintain.
Yep. And man.
Otherwise,
and
there might still be a Mayan, Incan, or whatever fucking civilization hanging out at the top of Machu Picchu that we've never encountered, you know?
And that's another amazing thing to consider, that we were, even multiple millennia ago, that we were able to achieve such ridiculous things in terms of engineering, but at the same time, we had no way of understanding something as basic and elemental as the germ theory of disease. Not until barely 150 years ago did we understand the germ theory of disease. And look at how much that understanding has changed everything in only less than 2 centuries.
All right, you know the Celtic method of disease?
Not offhand.
Have you ever seen the 13th Warrior?
Mm-mm.
All right. And go watch the 13th Warrior. It's another Michael Crichton film. It's based off of a book that he adapted from an old text called The Eaters of the Dead. It's an excellent film. Antonio Banderas is in it. He's got a big dog. It's great. In Celtic society, every morning you would be brought this bowl, and it would start as a bowl of warm water, and it'd be brought to the chief, and the chief washes, and then he takes it to the next person and the next person, and everybody washes in this same bowl. And this seems to be counterintuitive as far as the way we approach disease factors. But what this does is when someone
distributes antibodies.
Well, not just antibodies, but also when a disease does enter the population, everyone catches it at the same time. And so it's everyone's problem, right? It's like communism through communicable diseases.
It's the democratizing of communicable disease.
Yes, exactly. And so what you do is when someone starts getting sick, the tribe turns and looks at the idea that, hey, 2 or 3 people have gone down. We're probably all fixing to get sick, and they'll build a sick house somewhere away from the village over there. And the first people who get sick go and stay there, and a couple of people volunteer to go deal with them. Eventually they get sick, and some other people do, and they either survive or get over it, or they die. If they die, they get buried. If they get over it, they take care of the people who are now sick. And rinse, repeat until everybody's gone through the disease and the village is still standing and everything's still functioning. And then you burn that motherfucker down. You burn it and you tell people that it's a bad mojo place and you don't go over there because you might disturb the evil spirits that live there. Now,
right.
Zero understanding of germ theory. This is a very solid and robust method of dealing with a communicable disease, with certain exceptions. Things like anthrax and whatnot don't abide by these rules, but
right.
Smallpox.
And you know what's another kind of interesting counterfactual alternate history question to think about? What if Galileo had invented the microscope instead of the telescope? How much different would history look today?
Ooh, honey. Don't tease me so hard. No, that's a thought, dude. If he'd looked down instead of up, good Lord. That would have advanced sub optics, what, 500 years?
Yeah, and several hundred years at least.
Essentially during the Renaissance, when he would have had access to those lenses. There were skilled craftsmen capable of making them.
Yeah,
Galileo. Galileo had been in Venice instead of.
and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's in Italy, obviously, but I think he had to source his lenses all the way in the Netherlands because it was only Dutch glassmakers, glaziers, not glaziers, but whatever the right word is,
Yeah.
who were able to produce lenses that were as finely tooled as he needed them to be in order to get the focal properties to be able to do what he was looking to do. But yeah, it's another over 200 years but before we come up with the microscope and start beginning to understand the rudiments of germ theory. And right up until then, I mean, even though we've kind of moved past the idea of attributing all illness and disease to moral failures
I mean,
or
that wasn't a bad
demonic
guess.
possession or what have you. But
Also not a bad guess, because here's one of the ironical things about disease. They tend to happen where people are taking less well care of themselves. The
yeah,
the lower the hygiene, the lower the standard of living, the lower the nutrition, the greater the stresses on the immune system, and the higher disease rate you'll get across the board. You'll
and
also
I'm
get people making bad decisions for bad reasons, and well,
right. And
it's
as you say that, I am reminded of the guy. I don't recall his name offhand, but I should be able to recall it. The guy in it was in Victorian times, the 1840s or 50s, but the guy who first established the link between cholera and the water supply. And all he did to establish that link was to try and find some commonality between where the most extensive outbreaks are happening and what all of the afflicted people have in common. And it was just pondering that question that eventually made him arrive at the conclusion, which was the correct conclusion, that the people getting all the cholera are getting their water from this well and this well and this well. And look at the advancement in understanding that resulted from that. That
you know what the aha moment was on that?
hmm,
The yard that spigot was in was directly oppositional to a brewery, and the brewery and the bakery and the social house right down the street had no cholera cases, zero.
yeah,
And he went and interviewed the guys at the brewery, and they didn't drink water; they all drank beer. Well, what's called early beer. It's basically active.
it's not
beer,
it's not all that alcoholic, but
but it's safe.
it's yes, it's safer than common water. It would have been in that day and age.
And
And that
so
all. Go ahead.
the brewery had a deal with the baker to get their old bread for making beer, and the baker got pretty much an unlimited supply of brew. And of course, the social house down the street also had easy access to beer and wine, and so they didn't drink the water either. And it was the fact that everyone who drank the water got sick, but everyone who worked or lived in one of these places didn't.
Yeah, and it sort of goes back to that correlation, not causation concept that we were just discussing a few moments ago, in that it is easy to form a false conclusion that diseases and illnesses are more likely to afflict people of a certain socioeconomic station, or people who you deem to be guilty of certain moral or ethical failures. And that it came down to was the fact that the water sources were in poor areas. And it certainly, obviously, it stands to reason that worse water sources would be in poor areas. But when you don't have the aha moment and you haven't identified why the correlation actually exists, it is easy to jump right to the conclusion and say, well, obviously it's poor people who make bad life choices who get cholera, and that's all there is to it. Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Occam's razor, and I'm
Yeah.
not sure how fine that cuts, but it's not always the case, but it's a good starting point, all things being equal and whatnot.
And when Dr. Jenner discovers the smallpox vaccine, it's
Boy, that was ballsy.
he uses a similar sort of intuitive process to arrive at it, because the question he asks himself is, how come milkmaids never get smallpox? There has to be some kind of reason why that fact exists, and all he did was figure out why that fact is, and then that led him to the greatest innovation in medical history.
It was staring at you throughout all of history. Every single painting, every beautiful woman, it was always, you hear the story, it was a milkmaid. All milkmaids in the country are lovely. You know this in your soul, because every story you were ever told spoke of the beauty of the local milkmaids. And the reason is, anyone who's not a milkmaid gets smallpox and is scarred up for life. They look like meth head Mindy out there, right? And
every milkmaid doesn't get smallpox because they have all had a mild case of cowpox.
Right. Well, they've had a case of cowpox. It generally isn't aggressive in humans, and so they get a couple of itchy spots on their hand, and that's it.
Yeah, and then it's done.
They're immune to smallpox. But the balls it takes to call up your local orphanage and be like, "Hey, you got any kids that ain't had smallpox? Send them right on over. I'll send you 50 pounds." And they did. And they fucking did, dude. They sent the kids over. What are you going to do with the kids? Oh, well, I'm going to give them smallpox. But first, I'm going to give them cowpox. And I'm giving them about 4 days. The important thing is,
I'm going to give you 50 pounds. So why don't you stop asking so goddamn many questions?
Basically, yeah. And so they did. And he proved the point. And there was such a free-for-all about it. He actually tested it on his own children in the process. He had already had smallpox, and he needed a source that had not. And after getting into the whole, question answer scenario with local orphanages and whatnot, exactly what are you going to do with these kids? Give you 50 pounds.
That was the ballsiest step of all. That was the step that
he had to know he was right. You've got to be certain. I'm absolutely positive.
You have to be so convinced of your own rectitude to potentially put the lives of your own children at risk. But he was, and he knew he was right, and he knew that was the best way for to be not considered a crank, and to get the medical establishment to grudgingly concede that he might have a point with all this stuff. And
do you know how he got to that conclusion, though? He spent this one summer traveling around various places, basically trying to infect milkmaids with fucking smallpox.
Yeah, exactly.
You call him up, be like, "I'll give you 50 pounds if you come over here, stab, call me in a week."
Oh, I know. And
it's nightmarish,
dude. Here in America in the 21st century, look at how horrified we are by things like the Tuskegee syphilis experiment.
Oh my God.
But consider how many of the greatest medical breakthroughs in history that have saved the hugest number of lives would not have come to pass if we had the same sense of medical ethics back then that we do now, when you could just, like you said, go and buy children from an orphanage to try and infect them with a horrible freaking disease. But you could just do stuff like that. And obviously it's horrifying, but where's the alternative? It's why we should avoid, painting events and people in the past with too broad of a brush, because they were doing the best they could with the set of social constraints that existed in their day. And they just, ultimately they didn't think about things the same way that we think about things. But it's good that we think about things the way we think of them now. It's good that we have developed this sense of medical ethics that we have today. But
well, I mean, let's be honest. Our current medical ethics are derived almost directly from the events of World War II. That being the unhappy mustache man and 731. Between those two,
modern
ethics became something more bona fide than it was previous to that, because those were the things they specifically broke. Was that old do no harm thing. They were like, harm, greater good.
Oh yeah. Oh, you got a set of twins? Oh my god.
You got a set of twins. Triplets.
Oh, yeah, you go on over to the medical building. Dr. Mengele is going to take real good care of you.
Right? He's got a booth just for you.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And we know why he loved twins so much. It's because you can do a thing to the one twin and not do it to the other twin, and it's such an outstanding way. If you don't have a medically ethical bone in your entire body and you are a 100% evil mad scientist, it is a fantastic way of gathering data, right?
Right. Well, I mean, it gives you an automatic control all the way down to the molecule.
Yeah, precisely. It gives you an automatic control.
And that is crazy. Literally stark raving batshit mad.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, how far are you willing to go for a breakthrough? Oh my Lord.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how eager are you to gain new medical understanding? Where is the confluence between your ethics and your desire for scientific understanding? And I guess that's one of the overriding questions in all of human history, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, there has to be a limit. And if there's not a limit, it gets bad almost immediately.
Oh yeah, especially when you have a constant supply of people that your political philosophy causes you to view as subhuman. So
right.
Why wouldn't we want to sacrifice some subhuman lives in order to save the people that we really like and want to stay alive? The moral calculus, as horrifying and evil as it is, becomes very simple once that political idea of human and subhuman becomes heavily ingrained in a population. And we've seen exactly where that thinking ends up just within less than the last 100 years, and we should never stop being horrified by it.
Horrified, branded like cattle. And I mean, that something to keep in mind. That whole event was not removed from slavery, but by 60 years, as far as like American slavery. And I'm not talking the incipient human trafficking that happens all over the world. I'm speaking direct chattel slavery was immediately followed by some of the greatest holocausts in the history of mankind. And not just one, but several.
Yeah, exactly. And it's motivated by, look, I don't want to make Mengele sound like a decent guy, but So it's difficult to get at the thing I'm trying to get out without saying things I don't want to say. But I think for a lot of these doctors, granted, they had moral and ethical blinders on, and they wound up doing unconscionable, terrible, awful, completely inhuman, evil shit. But I think in some cases, they actually were primarily motivated by a desire for scientific understanding. And the thing that caused them to put on the blinders was the political philosophy that says some populations deserve to live and some populations do not. And sometimes you wind up going down a very, very dark road when those two concepts intersect. And we saw it in Europe, and we saw it in Asia with 731, and it was the exact self-same thing.
It was the same doctrine.
Arrived at by slightly different methods.
Well, different ideologies coming to the same conclusion that some people are less. And once you achieve the othering of a person, you can then unperson them. And once they're not a person, you can do whatever you want. They become chattel.
And
goes back. hold
Go
on.
ahead.
It goes back to the beginning, very, very first question I asked an hour and a half ago. What
What is a
is
person?
a person? Right?
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that back up, because yeah, that's ultimately the question that we are grappling with in all of this. And the easiest answer to that question, setting aside the whole thing of computer intelligence, artificial intelligence, androids, robots, is the easiest way of getting around the issue of answering the question honestly is by simply declaring that this population is good and noble and useful and worthy of existing, and this population group is not. And once you've managed to get yourself over that ethical hurdle, there isn't very much distance to travel until you get to Section 731, and the everything, the concomitant events that happened in Europe at the same time, and all of that stuff. God, we have really ended on a dark note tonight, haven't we?
Yeah, but I mean, when you start questioning the personage of people of any stripe, it immediately takes that dark turn, because if these synthetic people, if these AI bots are not people, right? If they're not
Yeah.
people, they're products. And if they're products, then shut up, sit down, and just utilize them as a product. But if they are personages, if it's a person, then a certain level of respect has to be granted to it. And the question of soul then becomes something of a bit more esoteric than once before.
Yes, and the question of whether we humans then are gods.
Facts. Because I mean, once you create, and I've got a daughter, and so I have at least once created life, but I do not feel like a god. That does not make me his equal, in my opinion. So,
And there exists, obviously, as we've discussed many times before, the possibility that some version of the zoo hypothesis is correct, and that we ourselves, or even all life on this planet, was a willful biological experiment that was undertaken by some other creatures from some other place, and that we are a petri dish, effectively, that they planted the seeds and wanted to see what would happen, and we are it. And that being the case, then those entities, those creatures, whoever they are, then they satisfy every condition of what we commonly regard as all the attributes of what we would consider a creator deity. So it's not only what is a person, it's also what is a god.
Exactly. And none of this is easy to define, because things can be created without actually creating a god to have created it.
Yeah.
Right? So how far do we go with it? How far down how deep does the rabbit hole go, I guess?
Exactly. And maybe the the thing we call God is just has the same relationship to us that we do to the artificial intelligence robots that we are attempting to impart sentience to, and going so far down that road that we have to even ask the question of what a person is, and how much sentience does an entity have to possess, and what is the source of the sentience before we call it a person that is worthy of rights and protections the way we would confer rights upon and grant protections to any other person. Yeah, we
All right.
have.
We got to do that thing. But before we do that, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and ask you, do you want some cookies?
I want some cookies.
Look at the screen.
Damn. Damn, dude.
All right.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I got a whole photo shoot over here of different stuff like that. I figure if I'm gonna look like Father Christmas, I might as well come down your chimney. All right,
All right,
the
you want me to
thing
do the
first.
thing? Ladies and gentlemen, thanks ever so much for joining us here on this very special 100th edition of the Blast Radius. We sure did have a great time. Hope you had a great time too. Hope you enjoyed that top 100 worst people in the history of Christmas monologue. Keep on the lookout for the classy edited version of it coming tomorrow. And we hope you have just a fantastic Christmas week and a great holiday with the people you love, and have yourself a merry little Christmas. If you like roasting chestnuts on an open fire, go ahead and do that. If you like riding in a one-horse open sleigh, go ahead and do that. It might be pretty expensive where you live. I don't know. I couldn't do it where I live, but that's not important. If you want to ride in a fucking one-horse open sleigh, you find a way to make it happen, even if it's 80 goddamn degrees outside. Anyway, Merry Christmas. We will see you next week, Sunday night, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. We'll have lots more good, fun stuff for you. We really hope you have a great day and an edifying tomorrow and a wonderful day after that and day after that. We will see you next time. Take care. Get off my lawn.